everyone, welcome back to Ready Westo. So here with the MG again. Now obviously it's been really cold here at the beginning of the year now, and the starter motor has not been doing very well in the cold, so it tries to crank, but it's at the point now where it doesn't have enough to go in there. Now there's multiple ways you can get to troubleshooting whether it is the starter motor or not. Now, testing the battery, I've obviously had the battery on charge. I've tested the voltage across a couple of days. It's still sitting well at 12.4. Now there is a possibility that it doesn't have enough cold cranking amps, but I'm fairly certain that the battery is in a good place compared to the starter motor itself. Now obviously when we did the rebuild, the starter motor was struggling. We had the kickback as well, which may have put a lot of stress on the starter motor itself. So we're going to get that switched out again. Sorry, not again, but we're going to get that switched out for you guys in this video. But yeah, let me just switch the camera around and I'll show you a close-up of the starter motor. So with the starter motor itself, this is the beast here that we're looking at. Let me just fix the focus. So that's the beast that we're looking at here. Now there's a bolt here, and then there's one diagonally towards the back of the block underneath. So I'll show you that from the underside. So 2 bolts and this should come out. Now in the car world, we always say everything's a quick job, but we don't know. It never always is, right? But essentially what we should have here is 2 bolts. Now from the homework that I've done, the lower bolt's a little bit awkward to get to. So let's figure that out together, what kind of tools you'll need to access that, and if we can get this out pretty easily from there. Now the wiring itself is below, but I'll show you that again from the underside just so you got a clear image of it. I would recommend that you just take a picture of the wiring before you crack on with the job. If you've got exactly the same sort of starter motor, which mine pretty much is like for like swap with this one, then your wiring should go back in exactly the same spot. If it isn't, or it's different, or you've got a high torque one, please refer to the wiring diagram for the starter motor that you've bought. Now obviously, getting to the battery, we've tested the voltage, we've checked the HT leads, I've checked all the solenoids, I've checked all the fuses. Pretty certain now that it is a starter motor. So obviously just do the same kind of checks, just be confident that it is. Obviously that is quite expensive. I mean, you're talking similar money to the battery, so just be certain which one you're looking to change, and obviously just try and buy one where you can return it if it isn't the fix for it. Obviously battery being the easiest one to start with if you're not sure. But yeah, let's get into it. Alright, so underneath the car now, as you can see, these are all your cables, so you want to make sure that your cables go back in exactly the same spot. So you've obviously got your larger cables here for power, and then you've got your 2 wires on either side. These will control the ignition signals and so on for your car. And then as I mentioned, that bolt just there, that is, sorry, let me just fix the focus for you guys. Apologies. So that bolt there, that's the one on the other side that you want to try and get out. So it seems like it's accessible anyway. We should be able to get it with a socket. I think if you have the original starter motor, which is quite a big beast, I think that's the one that sort of gives you trouble to try and access this bolt. But I think with an extension and just a socket, we should be able to reach that, to be honest. There's enough of a gap between there that we can use to get on. So again, apologies for all the wetness. There's all the remnants of the engine rebuild that just needs time to dry out. Probably could do with a good jet wash, to be honest, on the underside at some point. But yeah, let's get stuck into that. We'll get the 2 bolts in. I'm going to start with the top one first, and then probably work the bottom one out, because then at least we can turn the starter motor or something if we need to. We can sort of turn it a little bit to access it better. But yeah, like I said, make a picture of your get a picture of your wiring so you know exactly where to put everything back again. And then yeah, 2 bolts out, switch it in, job done. So safety first, obviously the starter motor has constant power to it, right? So first things first, get in the back, disconnect your battery. Second thing for safety, you're going to be getting underneath the car. So obviously jack stands, jack, make sure you got your handbrake on, make sure you got blocks behind the wheels. Always take safety first before you get under the car. Okay, so that was pretty simple. So with a 14mm socket, you can get the bolts at top and bottom. Now obviously the top and bottom are different sizes. So as you can see, let me just grab that one there, compare it with this one. So obviously the top one is longer than the bottom one, so just do make sure that you keep these in the right order. When you want to put them back in again, you just need to make sure you're putting the top one in and the bottom one in, otherwise you stand a risk of it may hit the flywheel, break the teeth. So you don't want to put the longer one in, sorry, at the bottom. Make sure you keep them right. So I've obviously kept them aside. I had one under the car, one outside of the car, that way I know which one's which one I took away. But whatever works for you guys, just please ensure you put the right ones back in the right size. So it came out pretty easy. It is a 13 mil, sorry, not 13 mil, it's a 12 mil for the one at the back. Just gonna double check. Yeah, so it's a 12 mil for this bolt here at the back, and that's where your big power cables go into. So you just need a 12, take that out, then remove the cables. But obviously, again, as I said before, please make sure the battery is disconnected, otherwise you will get sparks and so on flying around here if you take that out without doing that. So yeah, please, safety first. Make sure you've got that disconnected, remove that, then you can just pull the starter motor straight out. I would recommend doing the power before you do the other lower bolt. That way it's easy and it doesn't fall out for you guys. But yeah, simple job, and now we're just going to reverse order, put it back in again, job done. Okay, so first looks at the new starter against the old starter. So the first things I noticed is that the actual gear is slightly bigger on the new one than it is on the old one. So I'm hoping that doesn't cause a problem and it doesn't sort of constantly engage or anything like that. So we'll check that out when I'm offering it up to fit. But it seems to be pretty good. I mean, size wise they're pretty similar, connections wise as well, they're pretty much the same. If I just flip it over, so probably just remember it's reversed on the other side, but essentially you can see they're pretty much the same. 2 tabs on either side. You've got the larger bolt there at the bottom. This one has like sort of pin spade connectors, adapters on there, but we'll take it off because mine have rings, so we're just going to put them straight on again. But yeah, pretty much like for like. Okay guys, so to offer it up, it's not too difficult to be honest. It's from the bottom. I sort of positioned it in place, moved it into place, and then sort of like slotted it in so it stays. Now obviously you can prop it up so it doesn't fall out and drop on the floor. You don't want to damage the starter motor again, a brand new one. But I sort of positioned it in to place and sort of started the bolt at the bottom, but it wasn't quite aligning. So what I did was I came to the top again and I used something thinner, so something thinner than the actual bolt itself in there. So just an extension, just a smallest extension really. Put it in there and just turned it a little bit till it sort of aligns itself in the hole, and then literally bolt goes straight back in again. So I've just threaded it by hand and then we tighten it up. So yeah, if you're struggling to kind of get it aligned, just use something smaller than the bolt thread itself. Put it in the well, sort of just wiggle it like that so it just straightens itself, and then the bolt will go straight in. So yeah, just a little bit of word of advice. So just get the top one tightened up, and then we'll do the same at the bottom. Okay guys, so that's the starter motor back in. All the cables are connected. The bolt on the far side there is tightened down. What I did do was I replaced the end of this, a spade connector, and this one with a shielded one. So I put this on before when we did the work to the underside of the car for the rebuild. This cable I noticed was a little bit frayed, and actually when I tried to tighten it down it actually snapped off. So I replaced it with an unshielded one just at the time, whatever I had quickly, just to fix it and put it back together. But now I've just put a shielded one on there. It just gives it a little bit of extra weatherproofing, just like the one on this side. Yeah, gives it a better lifespan really on there. But yeah, we're in a good position now, so everything's connected up. Let's go and give this a try and see what happens when we crank the key. So in the true fashion of what I said earlier in the video, never a 20-minute job. And the car had to prove me wrong, or right on that rather, in this scenario. So started the car with the new starter motor in, and it was cranking really slowly. So it'll crank like 1 or 2 turns, and then it would just click, 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 which is the gear sort of shooting out, but not spinning or engaging with the flywheel properly. So yeah, it made me wonder, okay, there's definitely something else wrong here. There's definitely something electrical. Perhaps it's an issue with the not enough current getting to the starter motor itself. So take a walk with me. We'll go to the back of the car, and what I did was I looked at the battery again. So just to double check, I checked the battery, checked all the terminals were tight on there, just checked everything was clamped down. Everything seemed to be good. It was tight. They've used the multimeter, which is over there. Multimeter tested the battery, still had really good voltage on it. So yeah, it sort of ruled out the fact that it could be anything to do with the battery. And then what I did was I also connected the big battery to this battery and then tried to crank it, knowing that that has enough juice in it, and it still cranks slowly. So it definitely isn't a battery issue. It was definitely something else. So that means it's electrical. So what I did was I had a look, and as you can see, still everything's disconnected. I just need to plug the radio and everything back in again. But I came over here to the ignition barrel on the car, gave it a little bit of a clean out, just made sure the key was turning properly in there in case something inside the barrel just wasn't
sort of connecting, or it was dirty or anything in there. So obviously I took the plastic pieces off, got to the wiring in there, checked all the wiring out on the inside, and then after that I also went to the harnesses here, double checked that all of these were clean and secure. I just take them apart, gave them a blow, put them back in again. Just they all looked pretty healthy. There was no sort of scale or corrosion inside of those. This is a wiper relay, which it is a wiper relay, sorry, which I changed recently anyway. All good. I looked underneath here, just checking that there's no moisture or anything on the inside of the cabin due to the heavy rains that we've had, because honestly it's rained every single day in the UK since January 1st, so it's been a very, very damp season. But yeah, nothing I could see in there. There was nothing, no dampness, no wetness in there. So yeah, all good, checked out in there. I even disconnected the radio thinking perhaps the radio was giving it a big draw and something was shorting out with the radio, but that also wasn't the case. So what I went and had a look at is underneath the car itself. Obviously we've checked out the wires when we connected the wires up here. I looked at those, I cleaned the contacts on those, I cleaned all the electrical contacts before I did with sandpaper. And then what I had a look at was there is a grounding strap for the car itself. Now the grounding strap sits behind the tower. Sorry, I'm just going to try and get a good angle of this. Stay with me. Okay. So your grounding strap is that fella just there. Sorry, I'm just going to fix the focus on it. So that's your grounding strap right there, that little fella there. So it's a bit of awkward to get to, but what I did was I took some WD-40, gave it a good clean out with a cloth, just made sure that it was good. There was no sort of corrosion on it where the two ends sort of clamped together. But that's your grounding strap. Now it may vary on your car. On my car, it's at the back of the gearbox to the frame. Sometimes it's on the engine, sometimes it's by the front engine mounts as well, but this one seems to be on the back. So just gave that a clean, gave the grounding straps a clean as well, but still no joy. It was sort of cranking really slowly still, even with that cleaned and all the connectors checked and the wiring checked and the battery checked. It still wasn't giving me any luck. So the hunt continues. Bear with me. That brought us around to here, the front of the car, right? So back in the engine bay, you've got two relays. So you've got this solenoid here, which I believe is for your ignition, and this one here is for your starter and the horn. What I had to do in the end was I came in here, I cleaned, I checked all the fuses. So as you can see, all the fuses were good. There was no issues in there. I then cleaned all the connectors in here. I took them out one by one, cleaned them, just made sure that everything was good for the spades. Yeah, all was good again, but still didn't crank. Then I came over to this little fella here, and what I did was I cleaned the contacts. As you can see, this one doesn't have a jacket on it, and that was a little bit rusty on there. Again, due to all the moisture that we had, I think it accelerated the rust a little bit, and there was a lot of dirt on there as well. So what I did was cleaned it out again, a little bit of WD, wire brush, file, cleaned it as good as I could, just to kind of get the contacts back to shiny metal again, and then plugged everything back in again. And then we were getting a faster crank. So it still wasn't good. It gave it a little bit more oomph, but it still wasn't quite right. So I had a look at this little fella here. And what I did was I took it off the car, cleaned all that off, filed it nicely down so there was like shiny metal, so it was, making good contact as well. Same thing with the connectors under here. But please, again, this is where I said about disconnecting the battery and disconnecting the wires. I forgot at this point I didn't do that. And when you touch these two together, these two here, when you touch these two together, it did spark. So just be very, very careful when you're doing this as well on yours. Disconnect it first, safety first, please. And then, yeah, clean those out, got them back nice and shiny again, put the spade connectors back in again, and then boom, we had good power. Now it was cranking properly. It was cranking how it's supposed to be. You had good revolutions. It was trying to go. Starter motor sounded really, really healthy, but we couldn't get the engine to ignite. Now, this is something that you may face on loads of classic cars with carburetors, right? Is moisture can get into places where it shouldn't be. So what I did first was I opened the distributor cap. I cleaned it out. Now, there was a little bit of moisture in there. And what happens is when there's moisture inside the distributor cap, it will just interrupt the spark when it's going through there. It will cause shorts out, and it will just force it to go to ground as opposed to going to your spark plugs. So what I did was I opened the cap, tissue, cleaned it out nicely, just made sure it was dry, in there. You can use a little bit of WD-40 as well because it displaces water, but I just cleaned it with a cloth and put it back together. But still didn't want to turn it catch on the engine, right? So what I did was I then disconnected the pipes, the HT leads here, gave them a little bit of a blowout just in case there was any sort of water or condensation inside of them. Same thing with this one here and that one. I didn't do all of them. I just did the one on here to the coil. So one to there, one to the top of the distributor cap. And then what I did was I came around to the carb side and I took off the air filters, right? So there is a possibility as well, because my car has foam air filters, so it has these fellas here. They may have just trapped a lot of moisture inside of them. So what happened was it was choking the engine. But what I also did was I cleaned it out here with a tissue as well. So lifted the piston in there, cleaned it out a little bit. Same thing with this one, cleaned it out again, left the filters off, and then cranked the key. Now, don't engage the throttle. Put the accelerator flat down, clutch down, accelerator flat to the floor, and then crank it. And then it caught. Obviously let off the accelerator, otherwise the engine will spike and keep revving up, right? But essentially that got it good. So it let a lot of air through the system, flushed everything out, and it then worked perfectly fine. So what I've done is overnight I've dried out the filters. So I've left them by the radiator in the house just to kind of dry out if there is any moisture on them. But yeah, we're in a position now where we can give this another go and see today if the car will crank. So what I'm going to do is, for a true test, I'm going to put the air filters back on again and then just double check when we crank the engine, does it start? Okay, let's give it a go, see what happens. Alright, so as you can see, with the choke was fully out, turn the key, choke's now at halfway just to give it a little bit of time to warm up again, and then choke all the way in, let it settle, sitting nicely. Perfect, and that's it. And there you go, guys. That's the starter motor change in the car with the troubleshooting steps as well to take. If you still change the starter motor and you don't have cranking, or it's cranking really slowly, hopefully that helps you guys troubleshoot yours. But be confident, change yours. It's not a difficult job to do, on any classic car, not just at MG. But that was it on a cold start as well, cranking. So you can see it makes a huge difference to the cranking time, especially by changing it to a new, fresh starter motor as well. But thank you guys for watching, and please like and subscribe so I can keep making these videos for you guys. But yep, now I have the lovely job of putting everything back together again. See you guys later.